spots into the mid-single figures, a few mist and fog patches first thing. But the best of the sunshine during the morning will be eastern Scotland. Now for Shetland, outbreaks of rain from the word go and a few spots of rain continuing for the northwest Highlands, but mostly dry across the rest of Scotland, and plenty of sunshine through the central belt as well as eastern parts. The cloud broken up well across northeast England as well, but actually for the Midlands, Wales as well, we've got a weak weather front lingering here, bringing thicker cloud and some drizzly rain from time to time. That's going to drift its way south, and that means that southern parts will be cloudier compared with Thursday. And after any mist and fog lifts across the southwest, I think we keep generally cloudy skies. Brighter skies will develop further north across much of Scotland, northern England and North Wales, and where we do get that brightness, temperatures reaching 17 or 18 Celsius. Then into the weekend, we start with, again, a few mist and fog patches, but plenty of dry and fine weather for many. Best of the sunshine this time, Wales, the Midlands, eastern England, eastern Scotland. Western Scotland turning increasingly grey and damp through the day, and into Sunday, well, it's very similar. High pressure holds on, a lot of cloud around, but some sunshine in places.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
All right, what a set of front pages I've got for you here. The Labour government's in all sorts of trouble. Damning new revelations about the China spy scandal. How long can they cling on? The other big stuff, of course, dominating, is Trump's peace deal. And the Daily Mail, I think, have nailed it, actually, when they say about how utterly pointless the virtue-signalling Liberals like Starmer and Macron have been in all of this. That guy got the job done. Interesting story as well at the bottom of The Guardian, not often hear me say that. Nigel Farage thinks our teachers are Marxists. Stay tuned.
You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. This brand new 2025 Benamar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome along to Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition. Huge breaking story this evening.
You have to prosecute people on the basis of the circumstances at the time of the alleged offence.
It's unravelling. It's absolutely unravelling. The Daily Telegraph reveals that Sir Keir Starmer's own national security advisor suppressed the release of Chinese spy files. This is getting very, very messy for the Labour government. Plus,
we ended the war in Gaza and really, on a much bigger basis, created peace. And I think it's going to be a lasting peace, hopefully an everlasting peace.
Well, President Trump has done the seemingly impossible. He's achieved a peace deal in the Middle East. Hostages will be released early next week. The Prime Minister will be absolutely delighted.
Return of the sausages.
But will this lot be happy? Spoiler alert, no, they won't be. Despite claiming to be in favour of peace, the pro-Palestine brigade have vowed to continue marches over the weekend, including, of course, Jeremy Corbyn. Meanwhile,
this is racism, it's fascism, and we should call it out.
Well, the Greens are being as reasonable as ever. That was tonight, and their leader, Zach Polansky, called Reform UK a far-right Nazi group. Plus,
when you be a pepper lady.
Wasn't it the Cinnamon Sisters?
Basil Babes?
Paprika Girls?
No, that's absurd.
He's smart, good-looking, funny, charming. I don't write these scripts. And it's apparently David Beckham, Golden Balls. He snores, though, so he's just like you and me, isn't he? Just a snorer. Anyway, plus, for some reason, can I just say, the reason we're doing this is because why the hell is that on the Sun's front page? Of everything going on in the world, I mean, that is like, what would have to happen to have usurped that? Ridiculous. Anyway, we'll look closer at the comments, though, from this. This is the Muslim Impact Forum, and you might remember a bloke here who's being described now as Brother Hamza.
In this country, there are 4 million Muslims, and that number is growing fast. But of those 4 million, 50% are under the age of 25. 1/3 are actually under the age of 15.
Joining us this evening, political commentator Chloe Dobbs, former Labour Party advisor Matthew Larza, and GBNews contributor, superstar, comedian Simon Evans. But yes, is this the end of Starmer? Next.
Patrick, thank you. The top stories. A senior Hamas chief has declared an end to the Israeli war and claims the start of a permanent ceasefire. It comes as key Israeli figures meet to sign off the deal. Donald Trump hailed a momentous breakthrough in the Middle East and says Gaza will be redone. The US president said all 20 surviving captives will be home by Monday or Tuesday. The walls of Jerusalem's Old City were lit by the Israeli and United States flag today in celebration of the US brokered deal between Israel and Hamas. Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Saar says a ceasefire will come into effect immediately once the deal has cabinet approval.
We ended the war in Gaza and really, on a much bigger basis, created peace. And I think it's going to be a lasting peace, hopefully an everlasting peace. Peace in the Middle East. We secured the release of all of the remaining hostages, and they should be released on Monday or Tuesday. Getting them is a complicated process. I'd rather not tell you what they have to do to get them.
The Prime Minister thanked the US President for his role in the plan to end the fighting in Gaza. Sir Keir Starmer praised the tireless diplomatic efforts of the US, Egypt, Qatar and Turkey in moving towards peace. He says the first phase of a Gaza peace plan would not have happened without Donald Trump's leadership. The Foreign Secretary, Yvette Cooper, has also spoken this evening.
After 2 years of devastating suffering, the tens of thousands of lives lost, of the hostages and the pain for hostages' families, the hostages being held, and of course the humanitarian crisis. So now to have this agreement on the ceasefire, on President Trump's peace initiative, is so incredibly important. And today in Paris, we've had different nations coming together to show our strong support for President Trump's initiative.
And 19 migrants have been sent to France on 2 flights as part of the government's returns deal with France. Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood sent migrants trying to cross into the UK by small boat a message that if you come here illegally, you face being detained and removed. So think twice before making that journey. The 19 returns, including a flight earlier today, followed 7 deportations last month. Further flights to France under this pilot scheme are scheduled to take place over the coming days and weeks. Those are the latest headlines for now. It's over to Patrick.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Welcome along to another sparkling edition of Late Edition. Let's get straight into Friday's newspaper front pages, starting with the Daily Telegraph. The big one there, really, apart from obviously the Middle East, which is we have peace in the Middle East, is their scoop on the China spy files. What they reveal in that story, I think, could well bring this Labour government. We'll give it to you shortly. The Metro. Peace within reach at last. Again, there is a theme on the front pages here. That is, of course, about the Israel-Hamas war. The next newspaper we've got is The Independent, and they go for peace at last, relief and joy as Gaza deal agreed. The Daily Mirror go for a moment of shared hope, and they've got 2 pictures there, one from Gaza, one, I believe, from Israel, and this could well be the end of the conflict. At the Eye, they go for ceasefire deal for Gaza, Israel to withdraw troops and hostages set for release. World leaders express hope on this. The next paper that we've got is the Daily Mail. And by the way, I think the Daily Mail have actually done a very good job of this, because they say, blessed is the peacemaker. They've got a quote from Hamas saying the war is over. But look at this. Look how utterly pointless the virtue-signalling liberals like Starmer and Macron are. That is a good discussion point for us to have a bit later. Has this whole situation actually just demonstrated how ostracised, how weak and how pointless some of this needless virtue-signalling diplomacy from our leader and from some European leaders has been? Are we now on the outside as a result of their ineptitude? The Daily Express trumps peace. And we are going to bring you the Jerusalem Post. I think it's certainly a pretty rational thing to do on this evening, isn't it? The Jerusalem Post, he's bringing them home. And so the Jerusalem Post has got a silhouette of President Trump and a very moving front page, actually, which is the pictures of the hostages. There, he's bringing them home. Let's get thoughts on my panel this evening. We've got political commentator Chloe Dobbs, former Labour advisor Matthew Larser, and GB News contributor and comedian Simon Evans. We're going to do the Gaza stuff next, but I just want to get zoned in on this China spy scandal issue that the Daily Telegraph have got. And I'll give you a bit more detail to read out on this from the Daily Telegraph as well. So, Sir Keir Starmer's national security advisor suppressed a major Whitehall investigation into Chinese spying. Jonathan Powell decided in June that the government would not publish details about espionage from China. That was off the back of the Treasury saying that it would damage our economy and our trade relations with China. There's a lot going on here, because Sir Keir Starmer was adamant just a day ago that there was no involvement of this government in the crashing of this Chinese spy trial, and was also adamant that there was no ministerial involvement in any kind of cover-up whatsoever of the true state of China's espionage. Priti Patel has come out and said this is yet another example of cover-up and collusion. Simon, I'll start with you on this. So this comes after the ex-head of MI6, the head of director of public prosecutions, cabinet secretary, all these people have come out and said they don't believe Starmer's version of events. And now we have this. What do you make of it?
I think you're right. It's obviously very damning. I mean, there is a missing piece of evidence. There's a gap in the paper trail, I suppose you could say. But does it strike anyone as plausible that Starmer would not have been aware of what was going on and did not give it a nod? And at some point, I think he's going to have to provide a more plausible mitigation than the one he's come up with so far. It's classic sort of example of the the emergence of these kind of scandals, that the suppression is not disputed, it's not denied. The 4 out of 5 or 9 out of 10 pieces are there, but there's just that one missing chink which would absolutely damn him. But if it is found and if it is proven against him, then it's at least as damning as anything that Johnson had to resign over, or anyone. I mean, it's
worse
more so. Yeah, it is. And I mean, you know, even if you steel man cake as a question of it being lying to Parliament or whatever, rather than the actual activity itself, it's much worse. It's obviously against also a much more concerning deep background, which is clearly undeniable at this point, that China is considered to be so important to us that we simply cannot bear to bring a case like this to light, to humiliate them and to make them feel that they are no longer inclined to invest and so on. And that is a very, very worrying trend.
So the line yesterday from Sir Keir Starmer was that because the Conservative government at the time had not provided enough evidence, I believe, that China was a national security threat, or had not been public about it, or the intelligence services previously, this government could not then go and bring that before a court. Well, that's been proven to be untrue now, because the intelligence services had previously done it. There was a report, Serene Duncan Smith put this out. There was a report done a couple of days after these two people were initially arrested from the government expressing the fact that they thought that China was a threat to national security. So that was untrue. And then you've got the situation now where, you know, Labour have said, oh, it wasn't our decision to collapse this trial. The predecessor to Jonathan Powell is a guy called Mark Sedwill. He says that it's very hard to understand why the case was dropped, and Powell now has emerged as suppressing information intelligence on the threat posed by China. I mean, they're up to their neck in it, aren't they?
I mean, there's a small chance that Keir Starmer is telling the truth, but when you've got all of these huge, high-profile, important people saying, you are completely wrong, Keir Starmer, we made clear as day that China was a threat at the time, I don't know how he gets out of this. The one thing that's working in his favour is that this story tonight has come out quite late, when most of the front pages were probably already made, so it's just on the Telegraph front page, so it's not a huge splash everywhere. But I think this is a huge scandal. This really could be the end of Keir Starmer. He might be in his last few days in number 10.
It's the drip, 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 isn't it? So this is kind of, I mean, you'll know, you've obviously been around media long enough to know how all this works. You know, you get one person comes forward, then you get the ex-head of MI6, and then you get a former cabinet secretary, and then this dossier gets released to the Telegraph. Are we one more hit away from this being it, do you?
I'm not sure we're one more hit away from it being this. I think we're one more piece of evidence that proves that anything that Starmer has said, actually the words he's used rather than the implication or the briefing that others have done away from doing it.
Isn't that quite depressing, though, that really the implication there is that we've got a Prime Minister who can't be honest with us, but is using legalese phrasing just to be able to get himself out of trouble?
Well, I mean, the generous interpretation of it at the moment would be that Jonathan Powell has been going a wee bit further, perhaps, than ministers have done themselves. That's why number 10 has been saying that ministers weren't involved at all. I think Jonathan Powell indicated he's not been involved in dropping the trial, but obviously Jonathan Powell is trying to walk the tightrope. We do have to maintain relations with China because they are part of our world. We are very interconnected with them, but we have to maintain sceptical relations with them. It's whether the scepticism has been strong enough.
Well, there is another possible explanation to this, which no doubt everyone would deny, which is that this government is seriously compromised by China or has links that we don't know about. The Chagos deal makes a lot more sense if you do it through the lens of trying to overtly benefit China. Miliband went over to China and signed a green deal that we're not allowed to know what's in it. Rachel Reeves nipped over there just for a chat, really, whilst our economy was crumbling. This is going to be quite big for Labour to shake, isn't it?
Yes, although I can remember when the Tories were hit by allegations of that kind as well, obviously the Chinese investment in nuclear power stations and so on. I mean, the reality is that China has emerged as like such an enormous power across the full spectrum of economic and political influence in the world in a very short space of time that we still react in a way as if it's a novelty rather than, you know, this is actually how the world is now.
Totally.
But it is very difficult to see how, I mean, I'm not suggesting, I don't know whether you're suggesting that there's sort of compromat or there's something that would...
No, I don't know.
I'm
actually the idea. I'm not saying I've got any evidence for it.
I suspect what it is that the government's finances are in an absolute catastrophe. We're all waiting with bated breath to see what the next budget delivers, but we all know that they have an extraordinarily difficult situation from that point of view, and they have my sympathy to some degree, and that they're not in a position where they're going, well, if we're ever going to sort of cut ties with the world's biggest economic superpower, now would be the time, you know.
But we have, and indeed all the other front pages pretty much, we'll come on to that, are utterly obsessed, obviously, with Gaza, and the words Gaza and genocide have been going hand in hand for the best part of 2 years now. In China, they harvest the organs of Uyghur Muslims. They keep them in essentially extermination camps. There is an actual genocide of Muslims going on in China, unequivocally. And then you add on to that, of course, the total suppression of any kind of civil liberties, a social credit system, and no human rights at all, basically. And yet we're not going to call any of that out. Instead, we might actually suppress intelligence results, potentially collapse a spy case in relation to them because we need their money. And I'm sorry, but that just stinks, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, what has happened is there's been such a huge focus on Gaza and Israel that everyone's just forgotten about China's huge expansion, trying to take over all the trade routes in the world and trying to spy on us. I mean, we've even had MPs told to be careful what you say if you're walking around St James's Park because the Chinese spies are hiding microphones in the bushes, right? The extent of their espionage, and they have all of our data on TikTok. They're trying to gather so much.
Some of us aren't on TikTok because we're over 30.
I'm not on it because they steal all of your data. And then in this case, I mean, I agree with Simon that it seems to me like the government's financial position was so poor that they are completely unwilling, even if it massively threatens our national security, to do anything that would hinder the chances of us having trade deals with China. But I think you've got to.
It is the second biggest economy in the world. We can't ignore it, but we have to be sceptical about it.
I agree with you that we cannot make it a complete pariah state,
Exactly.
but I do think we need to make national security some sort of priority.
Yeah, go on, Matthew. I mean, I've got this now. So apparently, Priti Patel has tweeted about this, or X'd it, or whatever he's supposed to say. Shadow Foreign Secretary says, Keir Starmer must answer questions about this government's role in the collapse of the China spy trial. Since July last year, Labour has been kowtowing to China, a dangerous authoritarian country that poses direct threats to Britain and our interests. I'm assuming that next week Sir Keir Starmer's up at PMQs, is he?
Yeah, unless he's on a trip, he will be, yeah.
He will be, yeah. So I wonder whether or not there'll just be a trip. But
they tend to be planned in advance.
He will be under parliamentary what's it called? Where you have to tell the truth.
Well, it's parliamentary privilege where you can be protected.
Oh, yeah, he
can't mislead the House. He can't mislead the House.
Sorry, he can't mislead the House there. He's going to struggle a bit now, I think.
Well, I mean, look, he has to be absolutely confident in what he says, and because otherwise he'll be found out. I mean, I always think about Priti Patel when she does this. Remember, she had to resign from the cabinet because she'd been going against Britain's interests by kowtowing with the Israeli politicians against the advice of the government. So, I mean, glass houses stones.
And also, Kemi Badenoch, not an entirely unblemished record in terms of holding the government to account in this kind of situation. I mean, you can think of all the way back to Kinnock and Thatcher. It is possible to fumble balls in these situations.
But I
wonder whether reform will be able to, it could be an opportunity for somebody to shine. I don't know.
People know that the Tories are ridden with scandal and people just expect it. The difference with Labour is they set such a high standard for themselves. They said, we are going to be the party of integrity. We're going to change
and they have been.
Stop all of this. Oh, Matthew, please. I mean, it's not that long ago that we had, speaking of him facing PMQs, remember what happened with Peter Mandelson, where he was accused of lying at PMQs, and there was all this confusion about what he knew and when, and whether he had lied to us. And now there are questions once again as to whether he has lied to the public to try and protect himself.
There's a lot here. I think the fact is that. And this is just a view that I pick up as anecdotal. I think that most people out there now think that Keir Starmer is one of what has shown to be a brazen liar over several things. I mean, people have written columns about this. Now, this is the kind of thing that can get you sued, so I'm going to say it's not my view that he's a liar. And people have written columns about this. You talk to people out in the street, there's a sense that Sir Keir Starmer is economical with the truth a lot. And once that is the perception of you amongst the British public, it's very difficult to come back from that.
I mean, he's got terrible ratings, and if they're going to have any chance of winning the next election, which is still basically the best part of 4 years away, then they're going to have to get a hell of a lot better. They would argue that last week in Liverpool, that his speech was the start. I fear that it played better to the Labour Party sort of left audience than it did to the country as a whole. But they would say that the fight back has started. Let's see if this derails it.
All right. Well, look, we're going to deal with what's on most of the front pages, all of them actually, I think, apart from the Sun, weirdly, which is this huge peace deal that President Trump has brokered. But up next, this from the Green Party leader, Zach Polansky.
Nigel Farage, he joined forces with the Swedish Democrats in the European Parliament. This is a far-right Nazi group.
Yeah, and at the bottom of The Guardian as well, Nigel Farage, talking to reform, has accused teachers of poisoning our kids with Marxism. Lots coming your way next. Stay tuned.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
My dad used to play it constantly, you know, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Matt Monro, Sammy Davis Jr., you name it, I mean, all of them. And I came home one afternoon after school and he had this song playing. It was called Special Angel by Malcolm Bourne. And it caught my interest. And since then I asked him for a CD, like, you know, a swing CD, and I got it for Christmas. And I was listening to it all the time, and it became a thing, and I started to sing along and got used to it and just really enjoyed it. So it's been my life, really. It has been
I
my
suppose the thing about swing is you've got so many really good songs. Yeah. What do you pick?
They're only 2 minutes, 3 minutes long songs, so if you've got to do an hour's set, there's plenty of songs there, you know, to fill that. You can't just do 10 like pop songs today. You know, they're all 2 minutes 30. I think Fly Me to the Moon.
So did you go, have I got a story with that one? Or is it...
Oh, it's always... Yeah, absolutely. Sorry. It's always about a story, yeah. It's any song that I ever choose for any show that I ever do has either got a memory or a story behind it. Because, yeah, swing's been my life, you know what I mean? So I've never sort of drifted anywhere else. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
What I find fascinating with this sort of music, though, is that it's... I mean, it's old now.
Yeah.
It doesn't age.
Well, that's the beauty of it, you know. I think for many years, all these songs, you know, people have covered them. Certainly myself, I have too. My first album was, wow, a long time ago. And
that was called My Way, wasn't it?
Doing It My Way, yes, it was, yeah. And so, for me, all these songs that have been my life since I was a little boy, I've grew up with them, and they don't get old, and they never will. And it takes somebody for myself, you know, like myself, to continue them on. You know, Michael Bublé did it, Robbie Williams did it, and I'm still doing it, you know.
The People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back. Well, on every front page, it is about Trump's peace deal. And I think the Daily Mail has got the best bit, is they say it shows how utterly pointless the virtue-signalling Liberals like Starmer and Macron are. We're going to come on to that and see how we can localise that a bit for us as well. But what I want to do right now is a clip that landed just a few moments ago. This is the Green Party leader, Zach Polansky, on Question Time.
Nigel Farage, he joined forces with the Swedish Democrats in the European Parliament. This is a far-right Nazi group. They want to deport people, not based on the colour of his skin, but from the places that they've come from.
So Zach Polansky there on Question Time with Zia Yusuf of Reform sitting just a few people away from him, essentially accusing Reform of being, or Nigel Farage of being aligned with the far-right Nazi group. Ties into The Guardian's front page in a way, because Nigel Farage is on there as well. Nigel Farage has predicted teachers will go on strike within weeks of a Reform UK government, and he's accused them of poisoning our kids by telling them that black children are victims and white children are oppressors. The Reform UK leader set out his view on British schools at an event in the US, claiming that the Marxist left was now in control of our education system. Who wants to pick up on this first then? Simon, do you want to give this a go?
Funny enough, I watched that clip online earlier, the Question Time one, and at some length, and Zia Yusuf got his own back by bringing up the hypnotising women to get larger breasts story.
Yeah.
So it sort of descended into a certain amount of sort of schoolyard badder. But I mean, it is partly... There is a taint, because that group that he mentions, the Swedish party, are very hard right. They're considerably further to the right than Reform. And so I'm not surprised he raises it. But, of course, there are, you know, diplomatic protocols that are at play when you're...
We've just been discussing.
Yeah, but when you're within the European Union and, you know, there are all these different groups and so on, and obviously the sort of populist right is an emerging phenomenon in Europe at the moment. And what you call the far right, you know, is forming the largest party in a number of larger nations now. So that very term is becoming problematic. I don't think they're Nazis by any means, but they are stern about remigration, which is a word you're going to start hearing more of,
yes,
I think.
True.
So anyway, that's, you know, it is a ridiculous taint. But Zach Polanski, I mean, he's an extraordinary and frankly, rather baffling phenomenon, isn't he? I find him deeply repellent, I have to say, on a sort of almost personal level, which perhaps is a bit unfair. But as Yusuf explained on Question Time, the Green Party policies are absolutely absurd. I mean, they are every bit as biscuit barrel as they ever were, arguably more so.
Well, could you sound like a couple of them?
Well, you know, they completely open borders, complete decriminalisation of all drugs. I mean,
including crack and heroin.
Exactly, everything you can ever remember from the wildest west of the Lib Dems in the 80s. You know, they've dragged back up, and they see themselves somehow, I think, as a sort of paramilitary wing of the resistance against reform. I don't think they can conceivably, you know, expect to win any seats at the next.
Also,
well, not especially now that Trump has secured the Gaza piece, because that was the basis on which all the Green parliamentary seats were secured at the last.
There is also quite an unholy alliance, if you'll excuse the pun, between the Green Party and well, basically the kind of Muslim vote, right? And there's the slightly more hardline pro-Gaza aspect to that. And just on that, by the way, I wasn't planning on doing this now, but I can see we've got a clip loaded up. Is there any chance we can play this clip for you? Which is so this is the Muslim Forum, and in case you're not aware of what it is, fair enough, we'll tell you in a second. But just on this, the Green Party's kind of links with, you know, you see people like Mothin Ali and people like that who are part of it. This was, as the guy who's now being described as Brother Hamza in the at the Muslim Forum earlier. So look at this.
We either try and do something different to try and self-organise Muslims.
There's a longer clip of that we'll get for you, but I just thought it ties in, actually, because the Green Party trying to get into bed with the kind of quotes-unquote Muslim vote, and then they're going out there calling people like Nigel Farage and, you know, a far-right Nazi and all of that. I just find it very odd.
Yes, it's very strange, this marriage between the woke left and the Islamists, and I think the Islamists plan to be married to them until they've served their purpose, and then get rid of them. I mean, we've had some really wacky policies coming out of the Green Party
Useful idiots,
conference.
you might call them.
So I believe they want to essentially ban TERFs, right? But I'm pretty sure, although we may have had some idiot on the streets of New York talking to Ben Leo saying that Mohammed was a trans woman, I think in Gaza, most of the Islamists who are supporting the Green Party for that reason, its deputy leader, probably aren't really the biggest fan of transgender people. So it is very, very strange. And at what point did liking the environment mean that suddenly you support Marxism and Islamism?
Well,
it's crazy. They're also saying that they said at their conference that they want to basically just get rid of private landlords. They want to make as much housing as possible, just all social housing. I mean, this is
They're both
socialism.
They're a perfect alliance because they're both cover stories for the destruction of Western civilization. But the Green Party are just communists. You know, they are watermelons. And Islam just wants to destroy the West and establish a caliphate all around the world, and is not shy of expressing that ambition. So that's why. But it's not without precedent. They did it in Iran, right? The left and the Islamists. They've done it on countless occasions. The playbook is there for anyone to see, and it never ends well for the green stroke woke.
Well, this is the thing, is whenever we warn about the possible consequence of allowing Islamist extremism to breed in Britain, people say, oh, it will never happen here, don't worry. But then people who are actually Iranian say, it happened with us and it can happen quicker than you think. And how it happened was that alliance between the woke left and the Islamist extremists.
I'll just quickly before I go to Matthew on this, just want to make sure there's no legal phone calls in the morning. Because of that, what I will say, we weren't calling Hamza Yusuf an Islamist or the Muslim Forum Islamist. We were merely pointing out that potentially some aspects of the more hardline Muslim community appeared to be quite willing to align themselves with the Greens and to mobilise politically. So we were not calling anyone you might have...
Can I ask for a clarification on that? What is the difference between Islamic and Islamist? But to me, the word Islamist suggests that you are not merely religious, you are political. Well, that speech was clearly suggesting that Muslims need to come together for political objectives.
Yes, right. And I actually am very, very keen to have that discussion because one of the things... Sorry, we are digressing slightly here. One of the things that our friends at the Muslim Council of Britain decided to do when their offshoot group wrote a thing about me was things like, you shouldn't call it an Islamic terror attack. You should call it an Islamist terror attack. And so they are trying to distinguish between the religion and what people would argue is basically an armed political religious movement.
Yeah.
So that's what they would say the difference is, I think. But I think sometimes those lines are blurred. So anyway, right, Matthew, sorry.
No worries. I mean, I think on the Greens, it's a very cynical strategy. You know, he tries to portray, Mr. Polanski tries to portray himself as, you know, Mr. Holier than Thou. But actually, what he knows is that if they want to win seats off Labour in the inner city, they can get the, you know, if you think about an inner city constituency, not just in London but across the country, you have a mixture of young urban professionals and ethnic minorities. And what they want to do is, in particular, stick the Muslim vote and the young urban vote together, and they think that'll see Labour off in Islington and other places like it.
In Islington. Just on the actual story that's on the Guardian at the bottom, Farage, teachers poison our kids with Marxism. Chloe, would you agree with that, do you think? Teachers have been poisoning kids with Marxism?
In part, I think that I was lucky in my education to have teachers who were fairly neutral. They may have had their own private opinions. For me, where I experienced this crazy Marxism in education was actually from all of the student societies at university who would come at you like wolves if you said something the slightest bit controversial. And that is what, for me, made it a very hostile environment for free speech.
Yeah, I mean, we actually only have to look, I suppose, at what's going on some of the campuses, don't we, about that. Let's just play you the full version of this clip, and then I want to talk to you about Trump's peace deal. Here we go.
I would say hand on heart now that we are at a tipping point in this country, and it's reflected in other countries as well, where we either try and do something different to try and self-organize Muslims, to represent ourselves better, to use our resources better, and to influence the countries that we live in better than we have done already.
Keep a very close eye on that, I think. Is that a concern? You know, is it wrong to be concerned about? So, from what I took from that, they might say that I've misread this situation. Fine. My take of that was an open, naked desire to mobilise the entire Muslim community in Britain as a political force, and also to quite aggressively fund that. So fund Muslim candidates to stand and run and lead, just because they're Muslim. So we need the leaders of political parties to be Muslim. Well, I think I am concerned about that.
I don't see how else you can read tipping point. We're at a tipping point. This is a point at which we can show our colours. This is the point at which we advance to the next stage. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I honestly cannot see any other interpretation of that than we are now moving forward into a sectarian religious affiliation with a political party, which is, as I say, where we need to understand what Islamist means, because that, to me, is what Islamism is. It's the attempt to weaponise a religious community for political ends.
So if we want to stop that as a country for whatever reason, right? Just because let's say we don't want that, we don't agree with that. Under Labour's Islamophobia definition, Would we be Islamophobic for wanting to stop?
Well, we don't have the Islamophobia definition yet, and I hope that we wouldn't. I mean, look, I thought the language was rather crass, and I wouldn't necessarily agree with his sentiments. But obviously, motivating a group of people, whether they be workers or whether they be the Jewish societies inside the Labour or the Tory Party, or or whatever, is or Scots in the case of Humza Yousaf, there being a kind of identity factor that brings people to get active in politics. I think it's perfectly legitimate. There's a moment where that tips over.
Well, and my problem with that, especially with what we've seen here, is, OK, so what is the polar opposite of that? That is a dedicated political movement singularly based around making sure that white people stay in positions of power. And there's a name for that, isn't there? So what are they doing?
Yeah, I think it's very clear to me that Muslims do organise themselves in terms of their voting, because I know I have a Muslim friend who lives in London and considers herself a very moderate Muslim, and she tells me how the Muslim community, they are so connected in London, whereas most other people in London live their separate lives. They have all these Facebook groups, and they will organise in these groups who exactly they're going to vote for and where, and they're also very generous with not just funding charities, but funding political campaigns. So this is no surprise, and I do think it is a dangerous direction that we're heading in. And as you say, if it was someone organising for all white people to vote a certain way, everyone would be called racist for it.
Well, I think organising for any particular group to vote a certain way. I mean, it's not that long ago that used to have Catholic priests standing both here and in Ireland telling people how to vote from the pulpit on a Sunday, a mass on a Sunday. So, I mean, there is historical precedent for it. The idea, though, I think, is when it tips from trying to organise people who've got a common agenda into the divisiveness that you were talking about, Patrick.
Well, it's like, I mean, it had a kind of... One of the things that I was taking a slightly comical take on it, I suppose, would be that at face value there, I thought, well, it's like the Masons for Muslims, but public. It's like, right, we're going to fund you for this and do this, that, and the other. But there we go. Right, OK, look, when we come back, we're going to be getting on all of that Gaza ceasefire deal. President Trump has basically gone and done it, by the looks of things.
We ended the war in Gaza and really, on a much bigger basis, created peace. And I think it's going to be a lasting peace, hopefully an everlasting peace.
Right, well, we're going to have all the latest on that and what it means for us here in Britain. Stay tuned.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It is a largely cloudy night out there with a few spots of rain in places, but there will be some cloud breaks, and then increasingly so on Friday we'll see brighter skies develop. High pressure is moving in. That doesn't necessarily mean clear skies or indeed entirely dry weather. We do have a lot of thick cloud coming in at the same time, and that will continue to bring some outbreaks of light rain and drizzle, particularly for the north and west of Scotland, Northern Ireland, North West England and North Wales. Away from these areas, actually, a few cloud breaks, particularly towards the northeast and also the southwest, and in the southwest with light winds, temperatures dipping in a few shelter spots into the mid-single figures, a few mist and fog patches first thing. But the best of the sunshine during the morning will be eastern Scotland. Now for Shetland, outbreaks of rain from the word go, and a few spots of rain continuing for the northwest Highlands, but mostly dry across the rest of Scotland, and plenty of sunshine through the central belt as well as eastern parts. The cloud broken up well across northeast England as well, but actually for the Midlands, Wales as well, we've got a weak weather front lingering here, bringing thicker cloud and some drizzly rain from time to time. That's going to drift its way south, and that means that southern parts will be cloudier compared with Thursday. And after any mist and fog lifts across the southwest, I think we keep generally cloudy skies. Brighter skies will develop further north across much of Scotland, northern England and North Wales, and where we do get that brightness, temperatures reaching 17 or 18 Celsius. Then into the weekend, we start with, again, a few mist and fog patches, but plenty of dry and fine weather for many. Best of the sunshine this time, Wales, the Midlands, eastern England, eastern Scotland. Western Scotland turning increasingly grey and damp through the day, and into Sunday, well, it's very similar. High pressure holds on, a lot of cloud around, but some sunshine in places.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show Live, every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
All right, welcome along to Late Edition. Now, leading pretty much every single newspaper front page, so take your pick, really, is this Gaza ceasefire deal. The Daily Mail, I think, has probably got the best one for me on this. So the Mail are going off on, how it's Trump's peace deal, but also how isolated now the likes of Sir Keir Starmer and Emmanuel Macron, the kind of, lubby elite there, really are. Is this an absolute masterstroke, Simon, from President Trump? Blessed is the peacemaker is on the front of the Mail. I don't know if I'll be able to get that up. It's Nobel Peace Prize stuff, is it, or not?
Blessed is the cheesemaker, yes.
Right.
Well, I mean, the betting market certainly thinks so. His odds have narrowed dramatically. He's now the full-on favourite. It'll be announced tomorrow, I think, the Nobel Peace Prize.
The winner or the nominated?
Yeah.
I don't know how
The winner.
Is it like the Oscars?
No, the winner just emerges.
The winner just
emerges.
Yeah.
But it's a committee of the. So the main Nobel Prize is done in Sweden, but the Peace Prize is done in Norway. And so he's been lobbying the Norwegian government. You have to keep telling him that it's not.
to the surface by a killer whale.
There is like a ceremony, but when I say it's not quite like the Pope and the white smoke emerging, but there aren't nominations. There isn't a shortlist. He just it.
He deserves
it's just announced.
Prize as well, I think, doesn't he, for this, and possibly literature as well.
I like the idea of there being this smoke screen there. All of a sudden, an oracle, like a hooded oracle, comes out.
I do think we're planning the celebration party before we've got there yet.
Yeah, I wouldn't count on it.
Until Hamas have agreed to lay down their arms, not just release hostages, but lay down their arms, I don't think we can celebrate.
He might get it next year if it does come off, but I think he's not going to get it tomorrow. It'll be some obscure person we've never heard of.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I'm sure they're doing great work in a country of which we should know more.
It's something from Sudan, apparently.
Which is actually a major issue.
Hang on a minute.
Yeah.
There's not peace in Sudan.
No, I know.
Sudan is literally a war.
It could go to somebody who's trying to bring, not like a politician. It could go to an activist or something.
Like Greta Thunberg from the Gaza flotilla. She'll probably get.
She hasn't had it, to be fair. Partly because she's Swedish and the Norwegians don't like the Swedes very much.
Is that it?
Yeah.
The poor woman had to be illegally abducted by the Israelis.
I know. That's what the talk of it, of her being in the running.
You're saying that internal politics have prevented Greta Thunberg.
Maybe a bit of Scandinavian rivalry. But there's a museum for all the winners of the Peace Prize, so we may yet see the Donald in it.
Can you imagine if Greta Thunberg gets it and not Trump?
I mean, it would be class.
Well,
it would be hilarious.
The award will seem pointless.
On the other hand, if Donald gets
it
and not Greta, they'll be using that clip. Do you remember the one where she's scowling at him? I haven't seen that for a few years.
I hope they make her give it to him. I hope they make her give him.
She has to float in on a little mini flotilla across the stage.
Just to be immediately met by the idea.
On an airplane
with the water cannon.
Give him the award.
Brilliant. And there is also on the demo saying that the thing is it makes it look a bit ridiculous about Macron and Starmer.
I disagree with that. I mean, because actually I think the road to a two-state solution without Hamas is actually essential if you're going to bring the Palestinian people with you, because obviously, as Chloe's saying, it's not just the laying down of the arms, which we yet to see anyway, but it's being able to bring the Palestinian people who have literally been bombarded after Hamas did all those wrong things over the last few months.
All right, I've got a down the line guest on this, Richard Green, I believe, that I hope to bring in on this. Richard, I believe you're going to be giving us a bit of a view on this. Thank you so much. So where are you on the idea of Trump getting a Nobel Peace Prize, Trump's Gaza deal?
Yeah, I posted something on my Facebook page saying that as much as I despise Donald Trump, I do think he's one of the worst humans we've ever produced in the United States. But despite that, if he really can do what has not been done in 77 years and create a real peace between the Palestinians and Israel, he deserves a Nobel Peace Prize. And when I put that on my Facebook page, without exception, every one of my Facebook friends thought I was a traitor. They thought I had lost my mind, and they said, we're not going to give it to a pedophile. We're not going to give it to someone who is a dictator, a fascist, whatever. And I'm saying, listen, a broken clock is right twice a day. And this is an extraordinary accomplishment if it happens.
Okay, absolutely. And do the Democrats acknowledge it, do you think, really? Is there ever going to get a standing ovation for this?
No, and I have to tell you that there is a wing, a significant wing in the Democratic Party, kind of the centrist, old-style Democrats here in this country who do support Israel, who do believe that not just Starmer and Macron, but Bernie Sanders and Greta Thunberg are virtue signaling. And we are shocked that they are not out in the streets celebrating that Palestine has finally been freed of Hamas and also the IDF. It is a huge rift within the Democratic Party, and it's kind of ripping our party apart in many ways.
Massive thank you for joining us. I know it's short and sweet, but we wanted to get that view from America. We're also going to go to America again now because Ben Leo, the host of Late Show Live, is joining us from Washington. Ben, what is coming up on your show?
Hello, Patrick. Good evening, viewers and listeners. Hamas have come out in the last few moments and said that, bear in mind this is Hamas, the terror death cult, they said they want Tony Blair nowhere near the post-war Gaza administration. So even Hamas can't stand the sight of Tony Blair. Trump, of course, wants the Nobel Peace Prize. We were just discussing it there. He said President Obama got a Peace Prize for doing absolutely nothing, and I deserve one. I have to say you probably agree with that. The hostages, of course, are released on Monday and Tuesday. And interestingly, tonight, Zach Polanski has been on the BBC's Newsnight sparring with Reform UK chairman Zia Youssef, and I have an extraordinary clip to show viewers and listeners. Polanski has basically called Reform UK a far-right Nazi party. Zia Youssef responded by suggesting or bringing up the very true facts that Zach Polanski once tried to hypnotise women to increase their breast sizes. It was a very extraordinary exchange on Newsnight. It's something I need to show you. And also, this is ridiculous. Shabana Mahmood, the Home Office, a bit earlier tonight released an embargoed story absolutely celebrating the first return flights of the new deportation scheme. They said these flights mark a turning point in our fight against the criminal gangs exploiting our borders. Any guesses? I won't tell you now, but any guesses how many people were on those flights? It would make you laugh, cry, probably throw the remote at the television. Also, I've got an interview with the former President Trump National Security Advisor John Bolton, who had some very stern words of advice for Keir Starmer on how to stop the boats.
Lovely stuff, Ben. Thank you very, very much. Ben Leo there in Washington for Late Show Live. Make sure that you stay tuned to GB News after me because we've got another 2 hours for you. Yeah, coming up, though, is Britain under invasion?
You better get your act together, or you're not going to have Europe anymore. You got to get your act together.
Find out from what, though, because it's not quite what you might expect. Stay tuned.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Some unsettled weather across eastern areas of Spain. Storm Alice is set to bring heavy showers and also some thunderstorms. Mostly dry and settled across Madeira and also Tenerife, but all eyes on eastern areas of Spain. Some intense thunderstorms here likely to bring some localised flooding. A few showers across parts of Sardinia on Friday, but elsewhere, once again, mostly dry and settled. Plenty of sunshine, and this theme will continue over into the weekend with warm temperatures too, widely in the mid to high 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very, very easy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight Late Edition. And we know we said it's Britain being invaded. No, it's not the relentless tide of illegal immigration. A fish-eating spider, which was thought to be extinct, has been seen once again in homes across the UK. Formerly known as the fen raft spider, these non-venomous creatures are Britain's largest arachnids, growing up to the size... What's that? Oh, my gosh. Oh, they're in here. They're everywhere. Yeah, I actually do have quite bad arachnophobia, so thank you very much to everyone who decided they were going to do that. But apparently, it can... I don't like this. It can be that size of a hand, and it feeds on everything from other spiders to fish. I don't like this, right?
I think that's what I had in my room the other day. I was just telling these folks in the break how I had a spider about the size of my hand on the ceiling the other day, and I went to try and catch it with the help of my dog, and it jumped down and just missed me, nearly landed on me, and I screamed.
Did you do a joy on it? What happened to the spider in the end?
Hands up, I hoovered the spider, OK? It was too big to fit inside a cup. I was terrified.
Was it though?
Wouldn't be fazed by these things.
Well, I'm not fond of spiders, but I can overcome what I think is a perfectly understandable. We've evolved to be, be suspicious of them for good reason. I'm intrigued to know why it's was called the fen raft spider, and that's been revisited, obviously, by some spider naming body. And I want to know whether that's political or
some colonial undertones to it. Yeah, the Battle of Fen Raft. The Battle of Fen Raft.
It's been decolonised. It's intersectionality.
We
it's like the Spanish flu or something. Actually, it wasn't from Spain.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Well, watch out anyway. Consider yourself warned.
Where they come from? They come from the fen raft.
Yeah. It comes from fen raft. Right, there you go. Well, watch out, everyone. Beware. Now, Matthew Lars is desperate to talk about the front page of The Sun. So go on.
Well, basically, I mean, as you were saying, Patrick, I just want to echo your point. What would have to happen to get this puff piece for the Netflix, the Victoria Beckham Netflix documentary off the front page of The Sun? It's not even like Mr. Murdoch owns Netflix. It's not like the glory days when anything that happened on Sky was on the front page of his papers. It's just there's no commercial relationship relationship. I don't know what's going on, and there he is in the corner. Trump hails a lasting peace. Is relegated to the corner. What would have had to happen in like 1945? You know, George Formby, revelation: George Formby doesn't snore. Peace in Europe didn't make it onto the front page.
Can I just point out, it has also made it onto the top right-hand corner of the Telegraph.
Really?
Extraordinary. And this is Rowan Pelling, who I know very slightly, used to be the editor of the
Erotic Review.
That's right, yes. So she says we should celebrate Beckham's honesty, but I can't help thinking that is overplaying an admission. How many people don't? If you said David may look handsome and obviously was a talented footballer, but he's been functionally impotent for the last 15 years, then that would...
Which, of course, he hasn't before the lawyers get on to us. No, Patrick, I'm saving your career.
Then I would say celebrate their honesty.
I was about to say who's, and then I was about to say who's a snorer rather than anything else.
Yeah.
I don't snore. It's one of my few qualities.
The piece on the front of the Telegraph is a tiny little box, right? But on the front page of The Sun, Trump hails a lasting peace is a teeny tiny little box in the corner. Apparently, David Beckham's snoring is more important than...
It's not like David Beckham. It's not some great revelation about David Beckham. It's pretty thin
can I just
brewer.
say, there are, I think it's fair to say, probably billions of women all over the world who would be willing to overlook the fact that David Beckham snores. I don't think it's like, I think the things I have to put up with that.
Do you keep Emily awake with your snoring?
No. I don't snore.
No, I don't.
I sleep face down in order not to. But you've got to learn how to... If I have a nap on my back now, I'm snoring within about...
We had to put a recorder in one of my mum's partner's rooms once to actually prove that he was a snorer because he wouldn't admit it, and we had to play it back to him.
You're avoiding the question, do you?
He wouldn't admit.
Do you?
I don't. I've asked people. If I do.
It comes with age as the soft palate softens and start to sag.
Oh, there you go. Right.
It's a bit like the other business.
just a quick round up of the papers. It's pretty much all, apart from The Sun, inexplicably, it's basically all about Gaza. It's all about Trump's deal, and of course we've got a couple of others as well about the China spy story. But next, of course, it is the Late Show Live, hosted this evening by the one and only Ben Leo. Over to you.
Yes, good evening. Breaking in the last few moments, even Hamas, the terror death cult, want Tony Blair nowhere near the post-Gaza administration to help rebuild the area. And also tonight, a man who once said he could increase women's breast sizes with hypnotherapy has called Reform a far-right Nazi party. Back after the weather.
This is your chance to win a motorhome and cash in our biggest giveaway to date. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be the proud owner of this 2025 Benamar Primero. It comfortably accommodates 4 people and can be driven on your standard driving licence. Plus, you'll also bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. Make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for